Okay, Sapphire, let's have a look at both books. We'll have a quick whiz through and see what we've got. The self mind map is quite a key one, obviously, and I think any opportunity you've got to extend it and to think about how different ideas could be visualized as you reach more specific parts of the mind map. The question becomes about how you might actually make something 2D, 3D, or otherwise, that could somehow explore some of the ideas you're getting there. So I think there's room around the periphery of this mind map to start to do that, and possibly even start to do some sketches. Tony Orsler, it's good to have a lot of images of Tony Orsler. I think demonstrating that you prefer one or the other and perhaps saying why would be useful here. But also talking a little bit maybe about who he is and why he makes the work he does. There's some very good videos. I think it's an Art 21 video on Tony Orsler, which is quite revealing in terms of his sort of sense of humour, perhaps, and the surreal nature of his work. You've gone to a lot of trouble to do some quite close studies. I think that helps a lot in terms of recording. You're looking closely at what you're studying, but it's recording in other means too. So writing, that's quotes from Tony Orsler would be useful to shed some light on quite what it is he's doing. I think then experimenting and developing ideas around it is key. Recording is like 25% of your marks, so experimenting with perhaps different arrangements, perhaps when you do the drawings, maybe rearranging some of the things that you are looking at, and possibly trying different media. The opportunity comes with the wire sculpture to do this sort of thing. Once you've got the wire sculpture, projecting video, lighting, and so on of the individual pieces can help tie in why you've got Tony Auster in your book. How does it relate to the self? Mini mind maps, that's what you need. Jeffrey Farmer, again, some more written information would be useful, some indication of perhaps particular aspects of this piece that you might prefer, and your own versions, written, drawn, collaged, etc. Really to have some of that in there. Likewise, with the Hannah Hock, got some thorough writing, but I need to know more specifically what you think about the work and what you might want to do with it yourself. So it's only up to here that we start getting some collages, and they're starting to explore some kind of the strangeness, perhaps. For example, the one down here. I think some things which are more kind of risk taking and unexpected. And strange, I think, is the way to go with some of these. And it really needs to be some more of them. In fact, showing the difference between the three artists you've got here would be a very useful thing to do, distinguishing between them and looking at the difference between Dada and Surrealism and the more contemporary work that we see with Tony Orsler and Jeffrey Farmer would be very useful indeed. So we can really fine tune what we're saying about the difference between them. And so when we get pages like this, I need to know a little bit more about what you're thinking. I mean, these are pages that I found from a little bit of writing about Dada and Surrealism. What's are there visual things associated with this? Certainly are. I'd get some images in. I'd look up the Dada and Surrealism and compare them. I would get specific quotes. I would pull out specific phrases and opinions and so on. Okay, wire sculptures, a little bit of a bare page. I think it's good to have the documentation. You've also got the opportunity, though, down here maybe to do some mind mapping of alternatives, scenes these creations could be incorporated into, questions, perhaps questioning where the particular forms come from, how it relates to Jeffrey Farmer and surrealism, demonstrating that you've really kind of made that link to the contextual research is going to help a lot in terms of demonstrating that you're developing ideas out of the research. Use other materials also, experimenting with cloth, textiles, photographs, drawn elements within these wire pieces is really important to be getting the marks, but also to really exploring the possibilities. So we're straight in with the construction. with Rachel Whiteread and Fingerlays. But I think uh, again, mini mind maps. How does this relate to the theme? How could it relate to the theme itself? They're left a little bit on their own. They're kind of neatly presented, but they're just a little bit on their own. And stitching the pieces together, sketching, having drawing that serves just to sketch down ideas rather than necessarily to demonstrate an ability to draw, whatever that means, is a thing to consider here. Some sketches, some thoughts around what Rachel Whiteread is trying to do um, would be, again, demonstrating that you could experiment and develop ideas and so on. Good to see these images that you've drawn. You've got the opportunity to obviously overlap here, and I think possibly to introduce some other visual cues, maybe to how these ideas are taking shape, how you've made them, and so on. And this is a page I've already had this conversation, I know, but this is a page where you could be making 4 or 5 sides out of this, so we can really see what you've done here, and see how perhaps you might select some of them which have particular character. Now, if you're doing that, you're showing that you've got an individuality in terms of developing something that's specific to you, something personal to you. And it's also showing some subtlety and refinement in terms of exactly which lighting setup it is that you chose to go with, and then start to record why perhaps you manipulated the elements in this particular way, understanding maybe what could emerge as a purpose for doing the workshop in the first place. I'm curious about these. I think these are interesting. There's a kind of narrative element coming in and how that links to the self. Very curious about that too. We've got the opportunity to develop quite a number of things here. The sorts of imagery you're using, the sorts of lettering you're using, will be rooted in all kinds of materials that you could have documented in the book and that you could be talking about. So all in all, we should be well over half way through the sketchbook. There are lots of opportunities in the sketchbook to supplement what you've done and to bring out some of the things that you've done. But it's going to be really quite important to make sure that the book is filled out and supplemented with various new opportunities and influences that you could bring into what we've done. I've put a link immediately under this video for the content of the 3D workshops that we've done. And there are a number of other artists that you might want to look into. And there are a number of examples of interpretations of the workshops. So check that out, but also check out the assessment criteria there as well to really get your head around how your marks are distributed. Let's look at the 2D pieces now. So a little bit sparse on the mind map there. Again, I put in some visual stuff. I put in some thoughts on how you might visualize what you have thought about. Yep, I like the way you've just kind of dived in with lots of visual overlapping information there and different media. And the opportunity to use more photographic material is here. I think you could double up with working on these pages along with your wire sculptures and adding in collaged elements to the wire sculptures, so that there's a kind of crossover, there's a linking up between the 2D and 3D, which as you start to do your own work more in completely, you will there could well be a kind of natural convergence of the 2D and 3D. And you could be supplementing this book and supplementing the other book and moving the idea on. Loose pages. I think when you've got the opportunity to take photographs like this, I think taking a lot of photographs, but also cropping, taking little chunks out. If it's 6 megapixels or above, you've got the opportunity to crop down really quite a small section and still blow it up to A4 without it being blocky. So there are a number of pages here that you could have where you'd have a number of possibilities with some editing, with some selection, and we'll start to see some idea gathering some momentum. Okay, so a little title saying, well, what this is about would be useful here. What you're going to focus on. Different drawing styles. Interesting to recognise the different ways of rendering what it is you're looking at. I think also questioning why you're rendering what you're going to render. The Jenny Saville, yeah, choosing one to look at closely would be useful. Some explanation as to what exactly has gone on here. Doing your own versions, moving your head across the scanner if you're doing that, or using some sort of liquify software so that you could maybe start to explore this and relate it back to Tony Orsler. Okay, this is it's a more substantial piece of work here. You need to spend more time on a number of pages like this, where you're actually producing your outcome in a more sustained and thorough way, but also using a range of your own content as well. So if you're using photographs, having a bunch on display in the book to demonstrate that you've chosen particular ones for particular reasons. It's good to see you get into the abstract, but I'd like to see you do it more. I'm sure there's more material that you did with Miss Phillips with the 2D, and it would be good to see it, because the abstract would be very much in contrast to the realism that I feel like you're have an ability at. And so taking more risks, I think, is probably um, the area you want to look at, not just in terms of the materials, but also in terms of the ideas. And that's your AO2. That's right high up on the agenda if you're going to experiment, is to take risks appropriately, and you choose a range of ideas as well as materials. Okay, so lots to do.